Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Wise Practice Podcast. I'm excited to introduce you to my friend Todd Call. He is the co owner of Triology, a Christian group practice based in Kalispell, Montana. Todd has 29 years' experience as a therapist, is now focused on the visionary leadership of people and organizations. He's married with 7 children and 7 pets. So please pray for his wife. That's a good bio. Hey, Kalispell? Is that the name of the town?
Kalispell, yep.
Kalispell. Montana has so many interesting names for towns. So we're going to cover those today, by the way. But I didn't know you had 7 kids. Where have I been?
Yeah, 7 kids.
Oh my God.
Please pray.
You just became, I'm like, wow, this guy's doing all this and 7 kids. How old are your kids? What's the range?
Youngest is 11, oldest is 22.
Wow. And you're
Yeah,
still married.
yeah,
I'm saying.
yeah. That's why I keep saying, please pray for my wife, because I get to come here and do this. She has to be at home with them.
Now, did she used to help you in your business or am I making
No,
that? No.
she was a school teacher for the first 4 years, and then she just wanted to be a mom. So she's been a
Oh.
stay-at-home mom. We homeschool our kids, and it's been great.
Love it. Love it. Well, let's go back to when you started Thriveology. So, did you always have a partner when you started it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had moved up to Montana from Phoenix for a clinical director job at a therapeutic boarding school, and that had a bunch of stuff changed. I wound up in private practice, and my colleague across the hall, we went to lunch one day, and we were lamenting the fact that our practices were full. We both had waiting lists, and we didn't like saying no to people when they called to schedule with us. And I said, well, what if we found a way to keep saying yes? And he said, keep talking. I said, what if we hired therapists to work for us? He's like, how would we do that? And that began a year-long process of how are we going to set this thing up? How do we do it? How do we do all the things? And that's how Thriveology was born, 2017. And we were co-owners from the beginning. My first degree was in business, so I ran the business side and he runs the clinical side, and that's how we've done things ever since.
Wow. And so, did you merge your two practices into Thriveology or did you own your separate practices and then have Thriveology?
Yeah. So my idea was to put everything under one banner, under Thriveology. And he's like, no, if this thing fails, I still want to have my private practice to fall back on. And so we've both kept our private practices ever since. And then we have Thriveology as well. So we still see clients under our private practices, but we run Thriveology.
Oh, goodness. Well, it looks like Thriveology is going to make it now.
I think so. We're 8 years in and going strong. So
That's great. Okay. And so you started the practice together. Talk a little bit about how it was with your first location and kind of that experience, especially having a partner, because I think people are always really interested in that.
yeah. I lived in Eureka, which is a town up by the border of Canada. I could see Canada from my front porch. And yeah. And so I had an office there in Eureka. Jeffrey was down here in Kalispell. He had an office down here. And that's how we started. We let the first two therapists who worked for us, we'll let them use our offices to see clients. Then we talked about, renting more space and all that kind of stuff. So it was really shoestring in the beginning, which is good because bad advice from 4 billers in a row put us in bad positions. But we knew Kalispell was needed to be the hub because there was a larger population, all that kind of stuff. So eventually, I moved down to Kalispell. We still have the office in Eureka up by the border. We have one therapist there. She lives in Eureka, so she's there 3 days a week. She comes down to Kalispell 1 day a week. And then all of our other therapists are here in Kalispell, except we now have an office as of last summer in Billings, which is the other side of the state.
Yeah. And I'm guessing maybe different parts of the country are like this, but traveling between cities is more common in certain areas. I mean, does it feel that way in Montana?
Yeah, sometimes it's an hour to the next cow, not just the next town. Um, so we were working with an advertising agency, and one of the guys, the guy who was in charge of our ad, he set a 15-minute perimeter around our city. And I'm like, dude, that's like, the next cow. I mean, we got to go like 100 miles. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm from New Jersey. Everything's within 15 minutes. I'm like, dude, the grocery store's 45 minutes away sometimes. He's like, you're kidding.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a million people in the whole state, and it's twice the size of Arizona.
Yeah.
So it's gigantic. It's nothing to drive. I mean, people will drive an hour, 2 hours to the next town to work every day. So, I mean, it's not like your typical commute. It's very different and very spread out.
Yeah. All right. Explain this to me a little better. So it's Jeff with that. Jeff's your partner, right?
Jeffrey, yep.
Yeah. Oh, okay, Jeffrey. And so you both had your own offices, but then your Thriveology employees were using those offices,
Mhm.
right? So
Yep.
technically two separate locations, kind of, sort of.
In the beginning, yeah. And then I moved down here to Kalispell and we combined everything, but we still had the Eureka office. And then when I moved down here, we started renting more office space as
Okay.
well.
Wow. So you kind of had two locations at that point, Kalispell and
We've
Eureka.
we've had two locations from the beginning, yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. So what were some of the challenges of having two locations at the beginning?
Mileage. um our one of our therapists said, if I'm going to be driving back and forth an hour each way, I got to have mileage. And we said yes, because that was one of our original two therapists. And so we actually had one in another town, Libby, at one point. We gave her mileage too. So if people lived in these outlying areas, like more than 45 minutes away, we would pay their mileage to come into Kalispell and see clients.
Mhm.
So it was an added expense. Otherwise, we tried to do all of our meetings with everybody in the same room. Sometimes we have to video people in. The more offices we add, the more locations, the more spread out we become, the more that's going to be the norm. And, there's some technology issues there. There's some timing and teamwork issues there. But other than that, I mean, we're still all in the same room hearing the same thing. So it works.
Yeah. I'm just curious, did you pay them while they traveled or just for the mileage?
Just the mileage.
Yeah. Okay. And so how far away again are those two?
Eureka is 63 miles from our office here in Kalispell.
Okay.
Um, and then Billings is 7 hours away. We just had our annual kickoff meeting January 5th, and our therapist in Billings, he came in the day before. He was there, drove home that night. He drove halfway home and then the rest of the next day. There's a couple of events a year where we're going to say, no, we want everybody in the same room. And so we paid for his rental car, we paid for his gas and food and all that kind of stuff. So one of our core values is be generous. So we're going to be generous with our time, our energy, our money, but we're also going to be generous with our clients and with our employees. And
Yeah.
so from time to time, we do those kind of things.
Yeah. So let's kind of talk a little bit about this expansion you've had. You say you were kind of managing with two locations in essence for a while, and then
Mm-hmm.
this kind of dream to
Yeah.
dream, right? So can you talk a little bit about how that came to you and kind of what that plan is?
So January 2024, we hired a consultant and read the book Traction.
Hmm.
And that kind of lit a fire under Jeffrey and I in two different ways. One was we didn't realize how we weren't managing our employees. We
Mm.
both said open door policy. You need help? Come find us. We're available. But that was it. And that wasn't enough. And so we not only started changing our leadership style, we started changing the business and putting much more organization into it, behind the scenes, the back office stuff, all of that. And and then we started thinking, okay, what's our end goal with this thing? What do we want to accomplish? We also landed on our mission statement, which is helping people thrive. And we said, that's not just a local thing, that's got to be bigger. And so helping people thrive has become our mantra. Our core values is how we do everything. And we said, okay, first the state of Montana, then the rest of the country. And so that's kind of where we're going. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but we want to be in every major city in Montana, which, there's not a lot of those. There's like five. And, not one of them is over 100,000 people. So, that, and then going to other states along the way.
Yeah, yeah. And we haven't really overtly talked about this, but can you talk a little bit about the role of your faith within this experience?
Yeah, helping people thrive. We do that through mind, body, and soul. And
Mhm.
so the mind part is counseling, the body part that we're building some pieces to go with that, supplements being one of them. And then the soul part, discipleship and working with pastors and missionaries, not only for themselves, but to teach them how to work with people, whether it's their church or their mission field or whatever.
Mhm.
One of the things I've noticed is when somebody comes forward in church and they say they have cancer, the church collapses around that person with every imaginable form of help they could need for the next year or whatever of their life. Somebody else comes forward and says they have depression, people can't back up fast enough. And that's
Yeah.
sad. That's not right. And so I have frequent meetings with my pastor at my church, multiple pastors at my church. I do May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm doing a class on attachment this year. I did boundaries last year. We have a heart to reach out to churches, but also the community with everything we can think of as far as giving back and helping people thrive. When we talk about helping people thrive, that's as many of God's children as possible. That's
Mhm.
what that means. And that's everybody. That's not just Christians, that's everybody. And
Mhm.
so we put effort into that every day. And God keeps bringing us more and more people, both clients and counselors.
Yeah.
Even
So
though we're in a valley of 150,000 people, we always have 3 or 4 interns every year. We hire about half of them. It's just, what I used to say before we got organized is it's been like this car speeding down the road and we're hanging onto the back bumper flying down the road. That's
yeah.
how energetic it has been for 8 years.
Yeah. I mean, even sitting here talking to you, I remember when we met and where your practice was, and just hearing your
Uh,
story of everything God's done and the work that you and Jeffrey have done to kind of get where
yep.
you are now. It's a totally different experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it is totally different.
Yeah. So how many locations do you have right now?
4 physical locations.
Great.
Two
And
of them are here in Kalispell, one in Eureka, one in Billings.
okay. And how many therapists do you have at each location?
The largest one would be here, our main location, Jeffrey and I, and then 4 therapists. We have 9 therapists total plus one mental health coach. So this would be the biggest location. Kalispell is always going to be our headquarters, but then every location we expand to, we want 3 to 4 in that
Yeah.
building. In the Billings, we think eventually will be about as big as Kalispell. It's the largest county, the largest city in the state. We think it can grow to match Kalispell as well.
Yeah. So, what would you say to people listening that are thinking about expansion, maybe thinking about a second location?
If it's more than an hour outside your office, if it's more than an hour away, marketing is going to be a whole different ballgame. If people don't know you, if you don't have a reputation in that town, if you don't have any touch points at all, it's crickets. Our office in Billings has been open 6 months and he is not full. That therapist there is not full. Jeffrey and I, when we started Triology, it was the overflow from our private practices that fueled the growth and everything we were doing. We don't live in Billings. We don't have a reputation there. People don't know us there. So it's a whole different, you have to do traditional marketing. And that's a whole different bag of cats. We've never had to market Triology at all. We've been word of mouth from the beginning and we've been full from the beginning. This is the first year, 2025 was the first year we had to do any kind of marketing in Kalispell, let alone Billings when we opened that office. And so
Hmm.
we learned all kinds of lessons. We wrote it all down. And when we open our next foreign office, more than an hour away, it'll be Missoula next year. We're going to start earlier and we have a whole string of things to do before that office even opens.
Yeah. Such a good point. Now, I think these are some questions people have. Like, does everything flow through the same website?
Mhm.
All
Same
locations?
website, same intake. For now, we've talked about distributing intake at some point. It's going to depend on some things, whether we do that or not. But one website and location pages and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I mean, in essence, it functions as one practice, but
Yep.
with different locations. And I think that's something people have to kind of like think through what they want that to look like. Even like when I opened my second location, I didn't know what I was doing. And maybe you've experienced this, but we would have virtual staff meetings and they were a mess.
Yep.
And I was in my mind, I was like, I got this. I know what it's gonna, we're gonna put the camera in this room, the camera, webcam in this room. It's like we're all in one room. We're gonna feel the same. And it isn't like that at all.
No.
And now we have two different staff meetings, you know. My therapist did not like it, and they all want to be together. And I think every practice has its own kind of culture of what the therapists
Yep.
want and what works for you.
Yeah, we're kind of going through some of the same things. We have two therapists who video in for our weekly staff meet or weekly supervision meeting. And we've started talking about when we have 3, 4 therapists in each office and in each location, we're going to have to do things differently.
Mm.
We do a quarterly training. We've had everybody come in for those, but we've already decided when we have 3 or 4 people in each location, we're going to take the trainings to them.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I don't. We do more supervision than most. And we do supervision every week. We have two supervisions every week, one clinical and one developmental. From what I've learned, a lot of people do them once a month, but we do it every week. We'll probably always do that. And then meetings and other things we'll take it to them and do it that way instead of having everything done by video, because we have to go rub shoulders. We have to go be in the same room with people to build relationships, to establish our core values, to make sure we're all doing and running from the same playbook.
Yeah.
And that's Jeffrey and I both have the heart of a teacher. That's the way we've always done things, and we'll continue to do that, which means at some point we're going to be doing a lot of traveling and going to see people and making sure they feel a part of what's going on at Triology.
Yeah. I do think that's so important, especially therapists. We want to be in person usually. That's what
Mm-hmm.
went into the work we do. We sit with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to
Yeah.
go back to something you said much earlier. In your early years, you said something about insurance and having some issues at the beginning. Did I hear that right?
Oh, yeah. So our first couple of billers gave us bad advice. We started out trying to do it ourselves. It wasn't working. We got, I think it was 3 or 4 billers, and we lost $40,000 our first year,
Oh,
uh, due to their mistakes and bad advice and whatever. And eventually we did find the right person, and they were with us for, I don't know, 5, 6 years, something like that. And it was once we got into it and figured out how to do it, I can do billing for my private practice. That's easy. When you start doing hundreds of sessions a week, that's a different animal. And when there's a problem, there's usually multiple problems. And
mm,
that takes a lot more time, effort, energy, and focus to solve those problems. I that it just doesn't happen that way in a private practice. You have a problem, you have one, and you can put an hour or two into it and it's solved. It's not that way when you have hundreds of sessions happening every week.
yeah. Group practice is a whole different ballgame. So,
Mhm.
what I hear you saying is when you were solo, you could get away with doing your own billing.
Mhm.
And then when you became a group practice, you realized I really need to farm this out.
Yep. Yeah, and we started with a contracted biller, and then we started hiring. So ever since the one that we had for 5 or 6 years, they've been an employee. It's not farmed out to a billing agency or anything like that. It's an employee who's part of our culture, who has meetings with Jeffrey and I, and we're all on the same team.
Yeah, that's great. Is that person part-time or full-time?
Part-time.
Okay.
We
Mm,
have 4 admins. They're all part-time.
okay. That's great. What other advice would you have for people that are thinking about multiple locations?
Do your homework. Every location is going to have its own personality, its own understandings of the way to do things. And that's one of the things we're wrestling with too. How much is run from the home office and how much is run locally? And the further we get from Kalispell, especially when we start going into other states, I mean, you're going to have these micro cultures in every place that, you can't go in and destroy that. because people aren't going to want to work there. They're going to want to have their own microculture, and it can still be wrapped up with the same core values and everything like that. But you have to put intention in how you do that, because it's not going to happen naturally. This is going to happen naturally. And you have to manage that. You have to put effort into um, making sure people are running from the same playbook, the same values, but they get to have their own culture, just like our clients get to have their own personality and their own upset and their own way of dealing with things. That's okay, but we're still both going in the same direction.
Yeah. Culture is so important. As we've grown to the other location, we used to have a text thread for the practice. Everybody was in it. And then we got the other location, and I guess we must have added an employee or two, and we realized that the text thread wouldn't get any bigger. I guess there's a limit to your text thread. And so we had to make two different threads, one for each location. Now the leadership are on each thread, but the
Mhm.
employees at each location. So it's been funny over time how it's like we're moving further and further. Like we have the same values, but further away in like how we communicate. And so
Yeah.
like I might say one joke to one group and a totally different joke to another group. And so
Yep.
it's interesting how they're kind of creating their own culture, exactly what you're talking about.
Well, like here in Montana, the western part of the state and the eastern part of the state are like different states. Because here in Kalispell today, it's sunny, it's in the 40s, and life is good, especially, this late in February. In Billings, it might be 10 below and 60-mile-an-hour winds. And that's how different the state is, not to mention football, Grizz Cats, all that kind of stuff.
Oh
But
goodness.
you've got all that stuff happening every day. A couple of weeks ago, it was like 65 in Billings, and here it was like 15. So
Wow.
it's all different all over the place. Eastern Montana has its own identity. The wind never stops, all that kind of stuff. Here in Western Montana, it's all mountains. It's beautiful. We have glaciers and all that kind of stuff. So culture's different, people are different, expectations are different.
Yeah. Well, we almost have the same weather here today, and I'm in South
Oh,
Africa. It's very windy and in the 40s and very low 50s today. Yeah, so everybody's wanting.
yeah. That started here last Thursday.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, Todd, you have been a part of the Wise Practice membership community for quite some time. So, could you share a little bit about why you chose to be a part of the community?
So I was looking for something where I could rub shoulders with other CEOs, that group practices. And basically I had like three questions I needed to get answered, and I couldn't get anybody to give me an answer. And you were the first one, and the Wise Practice group was the first place. I could have ended my membership after the first group session because I got all my questions answered. I was like, okay, I'm good now. But I stuck around, and I'm glad I did, because now I have this go-to group of people that are going through the same things, that have similar issues, or they've gone through that issue and they solved it. And it's great. I've become really good friends with several of them, and I love it. I call it my go-to group because that's where I get my questions answered. My project for this year is sending out the dreaded insurance letter to get them to raise our reimbursement rates. And I've already talked to two people who've done that, or are going through that. And I'm like, okay, that's where I'm going when it's time to do that, because they're either doing it or have done it. So things like that are invaluable. Finding a group of people and it's not just going to get my questions answered. I can answer questions for other people. And sometimes it's Todd, I've been waiting for you to get on here so I can ask you this question.
Yeah,
So that's good too.
I love that. I mean, a big part of Wise Practice is the accountability groups, and
Mhm.
you're in a group with people in your similar phase of practice all over the country. And so we're really diligent about putting people in those groups based on their size so they can
Yep.
really bond with people in a similar
Yep.
phase of being a CEO and what that's like.
It's a whole different ball game. That was one of the first lessons going from private practice to running a group practice, is employee think versus owner think. And they are two different planets. And I cannot tell you the number of times in the beginning when I would say, "What? Our therapist, our employee did that? I wouldn't even think of doing that. Why did it was the first 2 years was an education and a half in managing people."
Yeah. And I know you'll agree with me when I say we're constantly learning. Like
Oh, yeah.
like
Oh,
no
yeah.
preparation for what might happen. I love it. Okay, and so you have a journal that you wanted to tell listeners about?
So before private practice, I worked in therapeutic boarding schools for 16 years. And one of my experiences in that industry was I was always looking for a tool to accomplish a certain thing. And when you're working with therapeutic boarding schools, teenagers, but the parents are long distance, and you want something to be able to manage and grow that relationship other than the hour a week you have them on the phone. And so I pulled together several resources of my own and wrote a back and forth journal for two people, specifically designed for parent and child. And it's great. People love it. It's called Simply Relate. And it's only on Amazon, so I don't have it anywhere else, but it's really a lot of people love it. I even had couples use it. The questions they start out really superficial and easy, and the further you go, the harder they get. And I really like it.
Yeah. A lot of times we're writing for ourselves anyway. Well, I love it. You've provided so much information today. And of course, I appreciate knowing you and learning from you myself. So thank you for being a part of the community and for coming
Yeah.
on.
Thank you very much. It's been a blast.